Appreciate everybody being here again. Like Steve said, last one. It's hard to believe we're in our last week of spring practice and just finished practice number 13. It's flown by, but really proud of our guys and the way they've worked this spring as well. Looking forward to this weekend. Before we get going on that, just from going back to last Saturday, our second scrimmage, was really pleased with that. I thought it was much better on both sides of the ball, all three phases, offense, defense, special teams. We talked last week, way too many turnovers on offense. They cut that to 1 on Saturday in the scrimmage, no fumbles, 1 interception on a play that Donovan Westmoreland, our freshman linebacker, made a heck of a break on a quick game throw. But only 1 turnover. Thought it was really competitive. Everything that we, talk about as a program. We talked about wanting to see physicality, effort, competitive plays, toughness, and saw all that, liked the group, and so was pleased with the way things went on Saturday. Both sides as well. The offense got off to a great start in the scrimmage on Saturday, and then defense kind of turned it around and then got some good 2-minute work at the end of the scrimmage as well. Today was another great day. Great spirit again. We can't think back, or thinking back throughout the spring, can't think back to one practice where it wasn't. I love this group. I love the way they work. I love the way they compete and the effort they play with. Today was practice 13. Really emphasized all of our situational stuff again today, since it's our last day in pads until the spring game. 2-point plays was the emphasis, or the situation that we did today. You guys that were out there at the beginning of practice saw that. It was a 2-point play competition, and it was a dominating performance by the defense. I think they went 7-0. It was a best out of 7. So obviously not the start we wanted to get off to offensively, but proud of the offense. What you guys didn't see was the rest of the practice. We did some third down work, we did some red zone work, we did some first and second down work, and then we finished with a 2-minute drill at the end of practice, where the offense needed a touchdown to win. And the first offense went out there, scored a touchdown on a walk-off touchdown pass to, I believe it was Trey Atkins. And then the second time was Luke Doty at quarterback, and there were some questionable calls by the head official, being me, whether there were sacks or not. So sorry I'm a few minutes late. I was videoing a couple of these plays in question and sending them to the defensive linemen that thought I was cheating them, that they got a sack. It wasn't a sack in my opinion, but ended up being a walk-off touchdown pass from Luke Doty to Omega Blake, or as Pete Lembo calls him, the Alpha and the Omega Blake as well. But it was good to see, in all seriousness, good to see the offense respond and finish. We've been really emphasizing with them finishing practices, finishing scrimmages, 2-minute drills, all that, and they did a good job of that today at the end. So really competitive, spirited practice. Another great day with recruits that were out there as well. It's been pretty awesome through 13 spring practices. I mean, we've had difference makers on our campus for all 13 practices that have been here visiting. A lot of guys are on spring break this week, and it was good to see some difference makers out on the practice field today. We'll have some more on Thursday. And then a lot of guys that will be here this weekend as well, getting into Saturday or throughout the rest of the week. I know tomorrow's going to be a great day with the parade for Coach Staley and the women's basketball team. Certainly what an awesome opportunity that is for our community to get out and salute them one more time for bringing a national championship, another one, back to Columbia. So that'll be fun. And then just really to kick off this weekend, I know there's going to be a ton of amazing athletic events on our campus this weekend. Encourage Gamecock Nation to get out and support all of our teams that'll be out here competing this weekend. DJ Swearinger has his celebrity basketball game on Friday night, and from talking to him, I know he's excited about that, and looking forward to seeing him back here this week as well. And then all the former players that'll be here for that game, and then the spring game as well. Spring game specifically, we need a great, talked about it last week, need a great crowd out there. We've got an awesome group of recruits that'll be coming. It's a great opportunity to see so many new faces on our football team for the first time, but more importantly, just to these guys deserve a great crowd out there on Saturday night for the way that they've worked since they came back in January to start the spring semester. And then with what they've done through spring practice as well, I hope we'll have an amazing crowd out there on Saturday night to salute these guys. And there's some great festivities planned and some great things post-game as well. Should be a lot of fun. So I hope to see a lot of Gamecock Nation out there on Saturday night because the next time we're in that stadium in front of a crowd like that will be when we're kicking off this season for real. And, I don't want to get on the soapbox, but we're the one sport at any level that doesn't get a preseason game or a scrimmage or an exhibition game, which is dumb, in my opinion. I've been talking about this since I was here as an assistant coach before, that it would make sense to have some sort of preseason game or exhibition game, but we don't. So the more opportunities our players have to play in front of a crowd in Williams-Brice Stadium, the better. So we need it. Our guys got a lot of young players that'll be in that stadium playing in front of a crowd for the first time, and they need all that experience they can get. So encourage the fans to come out, and should be a great night for South Carolina football. The game specifically, it's gonna be a true game. We're gonna break it up. We're gonna break the teams up, and we're gonna play it like a game. It's not gonna be offense, defense. I know last year, because of our depth, I think we played the first half, and then the second half was just some competitive third down, red zone, goal line things. We're not going to do that. We're going to play 4 quarters. We're going to get some special teams work in there as well. We've been competing on special teams throughout the spring. We have 4. Our team is divided up into 4 teams for special teams, and each team has a captain, and each team has a team name that they came up with. Each team has a theme song that's their team. So they've been competing since day one of spring practice. So we'll have kind of the grand finale of that competition. The street runners, the certified Steppas, which is Coach Stepp's team, the Goon Squad, and members only are the 4 teams. So they'll be competing to be for the ultimate champion on Saturday night in the scrimmage. And then, like I said, it'll be offense, defense, 4 quarters, true team, true game. And then, again, we're going to break it up. So it's going to be as even as possible. Offensive starters on both teams, defensive starters on both teams, and let these guys go play. And hope our fans will enjoy that. I know I'm looking forward to it. Got a lot of work to do until then, correcting today's practice, meetings and walkthrough and lift weights tomorrow. Practice again on Thursday to try and clean everything up and do some situational work on Thursday as well, some in-the-game situations that we'll install. And then a Friday, meet, lift, walk through again, and then play on Saturday. So looking forward to it. It's been a great spring, and we got to finish this out the right way with the next 2 practices. So I'll be glad to take any questions from there. My arm is good. Looking forward to throwing out the first pitch at softball. I was a bad, like in a good way, bad, softball, church league softball player back in 1999, 2000, Blacksburg, Virginia, man. Blacksburg United Methodist Church when I was living in Blacksburg. So I know I haven't played softball since then, but I never pitched, and it was slow pitch. Church league softball, so I've never done fast pitch, but I'm looking forward to getting out there and supporting Bev, Coach Smith, and her team tonight as well. So I hope to throw a better pitch than what I threw at the baseball game last year. I'm still disappointed in my first pitch at baseball as well, unbecoming of me.
Shane, will you be throwing it underhand fast tomorrow?
I think so. I don't know if I'll be throwing it fast. I'll be doing it underhand. So I guess that's the proper way when you throw out the first pitch at softball, that you're supposed to do it like you do in softball. So I won't be injuring my arm throwing it with the velocity that they throw it, but I won't try and do the lob either. So as soon as we finish this, I'm going to go down to the indoor and work on my throws a little bit so I get the technique down.
Just rough estimate, Shane, you mentioned last year. Do you know about how many players won't be playing Saturday?
Yeah, I would say the guys, if y'all were looking at the ones that weren't out there today at practice, I would say the ones that didn't practice today probably wouldn't play on Saturday. There's a few. We're going to release the teams once we have a better idea. I've done a tentative roster for both teams, the Garnet and the Black, David, but I haven't. We're not going to release it yet because there's a couple guys that didn't practice today that were hopeful that we will get back for Saturday. But the ones that weren't doing anything today, the majority of them won't be doing anything on Saturday. So whatever that is, 10-ish, somewhere in there probably.
Shane, you've been around this game long enough to know that if a player or two breaks out on Saturday, you'll have fans and maybe some of us in the media will start out getting hyped up saying, all right, what will be the angle going into fall camp?
Yeah.
how much stock, I'm sure both spring practices and in the game itself, but, how much stock do you put into the game itself, though, in comparison to practice? I'm sure they're both equally important, but to kind of explain the process to people that are on the outside.
No, I think it's I put a lot of stock in it because I do believe, Mike, that now I'm not going to discount the previous 14 practices and then all of a sudden the guy just shows up or disappears or whatever it may be in practice 15 where you read too much into that. But I do think there's something to be said for guys that when the lights come on, they take their game to another level. And we've talked about it as a team the last 2 Saturdays, even just going into the stadium for scrimmages. That when we go into that stadium, it needs to be a different mentality and it's for real and it's like a game. And some guys step up and some guys disappear in a lot of ways. And I think the spring game is another opportunity to go in the stadium, but it's going to be even more magnified now because it'll be on television, it'll be on radio, live, it'll be much more people in the crowd, and it'll be interesting to see how a lot of these guys handle that and respond. So I'll put a lot of stock in it from that standpoint as well. Weighting it also, we're also evaluating the previous 14 practices before it as well.
Shane, I know you mentioned each group has a theme song. Are you able to share a couple of those?
I don't even know what they are, to be honest with you. It's not country music, I know that, and not anything that I would know. It's hip hop, rap. It's I hear it every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and they're in our special teams meetings. But I don't know the songs, to be honest with you.
And I know obviously the offense has been banged up a little bit. Jaheim's been out for a while. How do you balance what you've seen from the offense so far to these 14, knowing that you still have some pieces still left to enroll in and get back from it?
Yeah, no. It's been good because you got a lot of guys that have been able to get some work where you have a good understanding of what they can do. With Jaheim being out and Austin Stogner not being here, what an opportunity for Travion Kenyon. What an opportunity. Chad Terrell's working at that position right now. For Jesse Sanders, you guys were out there. Wyatt Campbell's wearing number 80 right now and playing tight end just to be able to help us get through practice. So it's really good opportunities for those guys, but then at the same time, you look around and you're the MVP of the bowl game, and the guy that caught 2 big-time touchdown passes in the bowl game are standing over there on the sideline, and they're not practicing right now. So certainly you miss those weapons. You don't have Stogner here. So you realize that there's not a full arsenal, if you will, of guys out there, but what a great opportunity for the guys that have been out there to really step up and show what they can do with increased reps and increased opportunities.
Phil trying to get on Zoom. Let's go back to Ben.
Took me a second. Sorry, I'm out of the loop here. But you mentioned Wyatt. I mean, how much is he actually spending time at tight end during practice? Is he full-time there right now? Is he kind of bouncing back and forth?
Yeah, he was. Right now, he's basically full-time. Before, he was kind of going back and forth, I guess, from last Saturday. Kenyon got banged up a little bit last week. I think it was Thursday. Travion was limited. Tuesday, Thursday, he was kind of limited. So just to be able to get through practice, we just said, okay, you go, play tight end. So he was excited to put on an 80 jersey. The players got a big kick out of it when he was catching some routes, from the quarterbacks and things like that. But right now he's a tight end. He's not going to be a guy that's going to stretch the field and all that. We're not using him in that role. But to be able to block and be able to do, last year we used Trey Jones as a fullback, and he caught a touchdown pass, in short yardage goal line situation. So kind of similar mindset. Wyatt's an offensive lineman first, but he's a guy that in season could certainly, because we're not going to have that necessarily just, massive tight end that you can put in there in short yardage goal line situations to move the ball or move the pile and things like that. So I think he's a guy that, has got the ability to do a little bit of both.
I was going to ask, are we going to see like a Trey Jones style sub package for Wyatt or something like that?
We could. You never know what we'll throw out there as well. So they'll be campaigning for it.
The third 2-point play when we were out there, for the record, I thought it was a catch.
Did you?
By Antoine Wells.
If you notice, Hill, the guy that overruled it came all the way over there on the sideline from where you guys were. So the guy that was the official that was right in front of it, signaled touchdown, and the one that was far away from it, he felt like it was incomplete and was very adamant about it. So I haven't checked the tape on that one, but I appreciate that. The offense, I know, appreciates you saying that.
Well, I was even further away, and my vision's not the best, so take that for what it's worth.
All right. It'll be interesting to see what the tape says. But even if that was a touchdown, the defense still got them 6-1. So it wasn't a shutout if that's the case.
And more on the spring game, are you planning to do some of the things that have been done in the past with like the celebrity receiver and those type of things, or do you have some secrets under your hat that you're trying to?
I wouldn't say I have any. I'm being totally honest. I don't have any secrets under my hat, and I really haven't thought about doing anything like that. Not to say that we won't. We'll see how the game's going and things like that. But no, I mean, we want to certainly have some fun with it and entertain people, but I want to see us play football is what I want to see.
And I guess probably to that point, how nice is it to be able to have actual teams this year as opposed to last year where things were a little wonky?
Yeah, no, it's great. Knock on wood. We got to get everybody healthy to the game on Saturday, but it's nice to be able to break it up to actually have a second offensive line. I mean, last year at this time, you guys remember, we were using our second team corner, defensive back. Our second team corner was a walk-on that had just come out on the team in January and started out the spring as a receiver and ended up moving to DB, come out of the walk-on tryout, and he was our backup defensive back last year just because we didn't have a lot of these guys here at that point, and then we had a bunch of guys with injuries and things like that. So to be able to have a second group, and don't get me wrong, we're not just overloaded with depth. There's still some positions that are concerning, but from a depth standpoint, but at least to be able to break it up into two teams and have it evenly matched is really good, really good.
Couple for you. Are you going to be the head coach for both teams, or are you going to designate assistants to be head coaches for the respective teams? Probably
going to designate it. I've broke up the coaching staff at this point where the coaching staff is on two different teams, and I was going to sit down with Coach Limbo, Coach Satterfield, and Coach White today to finalize all that stuff. But I'll be out there on the field blowing the whistle because just, for sacks and things like that. I'll be out there for that, but leaning more towards just, each team has their own head coach and let those guys go and make decisions.
And besides avoiding injury, what do you consider a successful spring game performance? Do you want to give the fans what they want, which is a lot of points and a lot of big plays, or what exactly would you take away as a successful spring game?
If you have a huge day on offense and the narrative is the offense and what's wrong with the defense, and if the offense doesn't score, it's what a great defense we got and what's wrong with the offense. So to me, you'd love to see both sides, have some success, some players that step up and make some individual plays. And then for me, it's really just the efficiency and just the way we operate and guys performing. Does it look like a well-coached team? Does it look like the kind of team that we want to have here at South Carolina? Hopefully we walk out of there on Saturday night and we feel that way as well. I'm a guy. I've worked for a previous head coach where going into the spring game, he was gonna take our best pass rusher off the field, so the defense only had 10 players, so his offense could score some points in the spring game. I won't say any names, but I'm not to the point of that where I want the offense to have so much success where I make the defense play with 10. But I do want to see both sides certainly have some success and feel confident that we will.
Shane, looking down here, I had Blacksburg United Methodist Church Softball League on my bingo card today, so thank you for that. Two questions for you. Will it be 15-minute quarters Saturday night? And two, have you decided on how you'll split the teams up? Will it be 1v1s or will you mix the guys?
No, it'll be mixed. Quarter-wise, we're leaning towards, again, kicking around some things. It won't be 4 15-minute quarters. We're going to meet on that today and finalize everything, and we'll get all that information to you. And then team-wise, it's literally I just sat in the staff room last week and kind of went through the depth chart by position and just bam, Garnet, Black, Garnet, Black, Garnet, Black, and just kind of broke it down that way. So if Jordan Strawn and Jordan Birch are your top two guys listed at defensive end, one of them is going to be on one team and one of them is going to be on the other. And if Josh Van and whoever or wherever at receiver, one's going to be on one team, one's going to be on the other. So the one position that we probably will, keep that continuity is just the offensive line, where you may see the majority of that group stay together on one team. But other than that, we got to get used to playing with different people at all times.
Shane, obviously you brought back, I think, just about everyone on the staff this year. But on Clayton, when you look back at when you interviewed him and brought him in and what stood out, and you decided that he was the guy you wanted to run the defense, I guess just what was it about him that stood out, and I guess what were your kind of initial takeaways about why you felt like he'd be a good fit, and I guess what have you kind of seen from him now going into year 2 as well?
Yeah, I'd always heard of him. I didn't know him, and then like a lot of the guys that I hired, just the more that I researched him and talked to people about him, the more I liked what I heard. Obviously, Des Kitchings was on our staff at the time, and he and Des knew each other from their NC State days, I guess. And then just kind of looking at Clayton's track record and who he had been around, who he had coached, defensive background, special teams background was appealing. And then you just looked at, for me, it was what he had accomplished as a coordinator at Western Kentucky, and was impressive. And then for me, really, it was just, talking to him like when I talked to Luke Day or anyone else, it was just the fit, you felt that connection. And I talked to a lot of different coaches, not just for defensive coordinator, but all the different positions, and really took my time on it, but kept coming back to Clayton. And I think he's fantastic. Got a great family, first and foremost. He's a great person. He's a really good linebacker coach as well. He's got a great understanding and feel for the defense and the coaches on his staff. I think he's a fantastic motivator, with our defense as well. Don't know what his long-term goals are, but I think he'd be a phenomenal head coach, if he ever got that or he will get that opportunity if he wants it. I think he's great. And, we're really, really fortunate that he's here with us as well. And he's been a great, he was the right fit at the right time for what our defense needed, in my opinion. And that's my opinion. And that's, what a lot of the older players on defense told me last year, that, he was exactly what our defense needed.
Shane, as we're just practicing the spring game itself away from spring wrapping up, going into spring, what were some of the questions, maybe I wouldn't say concerns, but some of the questions you wanted to be able to have answered about this team once spring ball wrapped up? And if there is any questions still out there, what are some of those questions?
I think the biggest thing, not necessarily position-wise, but just overall team, was me being very very cognizant of any, I don't want to use the word complacency, but coming off the season that we had and winning 3 out of 5 and winning our bowl game like we did, making sure that our players weren't comfortable when they came back out there to start spring practice. And I saw that in January with the way they worked in the weight room. I saw it in February and March with the way they worked in the weight room. And then I've seen it out there on the practice field as well. If anything, they're even more motivated and more driven and hungrier to win more than 7, to be more successful. So the work ethic, I didn't have any doubts. I didn't think it wasn't going to be that way, but that's not a concern. I know how much this group loves to work and loves to compete. And, that's probably the main thing overall. It was a lot of new faces on offense and defense, new faces that are here, seeing how well they blend in. I think those guys have done a good job. Certainly there's, things that we've got to continue to emphasize and continue to get better at, and a lot of position battles that, going into the springtime, coming out of the spring, I wouldn't say necessarily are settled. Defensive end position, that defensive end spot that Sterling's coaching, and Jordan Birch and Jordan Strawn have had really good springs. Now, who's the 3rd and 4th and 5th guy behind them? Trying to get that sorted out, and Zach Pickens and MJ Webb and Tonka and Boogie have had really good spring practices as well. Who's that 5th, 6th defensive tackle as it comes out of that. So there's a lot of things that are still to be determined. And we got a lot of young guys, some work in that scrimmage last Saturday. MJ Webb and Zach Pickens, we got a pretty good idea what those guys can do at defensive tackle. So we got a ton of reps for TJ Sanders, Nick Barrett, Devontae Davis, Jakeem Green, Felix Hicks and DeAndre Martin. So a lot of spots like that, just really trying to figure out, the depth at those positions coming out of springtime. And that was a question mark and still is in some ways.
Would like to add good golfer to Clayton's resume that you also.
Yeah, he can hit it. He works at it. His son can hit it too,
We
as
golfed with
well.
him at that Beamer outing, and
Yep.
Wow. What's the plan for the quarterbacks in terms of? I know Spencer's taking a lot of the first team reps, but who's the number 2 as it stands right now? And will Colton and Braden both be live for the spring game?
They have been for the last 2 scrimmages. Colton and Braden have, and they've done a good job with that. It's been great for their development, just getting rid of the ball. Braden Davis has had 2 long runs in the last 2 scrimmages, just coming out of the pocket when he got some pressure and running for a long ways. So I think it's great for their development. That'll be decided this afternoon when we sit down and talk, Sat and Clayton and Pete and I, about the plan for Saturday. We'll see. Haven't made that decision yet. And then as far as the quarterbacks go, right now Luke's been taking the reps with the second group, and they're all working in there. I mean, Colton got a ton of work the other day. Braden got a ton of work the other day. Luke got a ton of work the other day. They've all been mixing in with that second group during the scrimmage. Braden, Colton, and Luke all worked with the second team in the scrimmage the other day. Spencer got all the work with the first group in the scrimmage the other day. They mix it up during practice, so as far as if you listed it technically on the depth chart right now, Luke would be listed as the second guy right now, but in our minds, all those guys are in there competing and working. Oh, you good? Oh, okay. Thank you, guys. Yeah, appreciate it. Have a good week.